very, very excited about it, and thrilled to see there's so many people that are interested in the Tour de Mont Blanc. It was my first long distance hike, and it completely changed my life. Okay, I think we're good to go. I haven't seen anything from anybody. Okay, if you're having any problems hearing me, please let me know. But I think it looks like we're okay here. So I'm gonna continue on here. I'm just gonna turn off the chat just for a few minutes since it's distracting. But we'll turn it back on later on, so no worries about that. I think most of you figured it out by now, but you can see in the chat box here where you can ask questions. I've just turned that off now, but I will turn it on at the end, and I'll be taking questions at the end. So I just ask if you can hold off any questions you have, maybe make a note of it, and then happy at the end, because I know a lot of people have lots of other things to get started to do with their day. So I want to make sure we get through most of the stuff first. So by the end of the webinar, you're going to know how to plan the best Tour de Mont Blanc hike for you. There are so many different ways that you can do it, and there's no right or there's no wrong. It really depends on a lot of different things. And so that's what's really important, is to make sure that you find whatever the best one is for you, which is different for everybody. So this webinar is for you. Let me go into full screen here. Hopefully you can see that a little bit better. If you love vacations, but you hate all the planning that's involved, Tour de Mont Blanc is an incredible hike, but it is very, very difficult and time-consuming to book it on your own, which we'll get into a little bit later on. You're interested, but you need some help in planning your perfect hike because there is so much information. And maybe you love hiking, but you're not sure it's the right hike for you. Quite a few of you filled out the form before the webinar, which thank you very much for that. And most of you have done a trek that's 5 days or over. So kudos to you. That's fantastic. So we're going to cover an overview, what hiking the TMB involves, your options for hiking it, your choices for accommodation, how to make it easier or more challenging. Again, from the forums, I learned some of you were worried about yourself, wondering if you can do it, and then others are worried about if people in your group can do it. So we're going to cover that and figure out how we can resolve that. The best time of year to hike the TMB. Some people are worried about snow. Some people want more solitude, so we're going to cover that as well. What gear you need, and if it's the right tour for you, and then we'll take questions at the end. So a little bit about me before we get started. I'm the founder of Monkeys and Mountains Adventure Travel, and so I help travelers plan their hiking, cycling, and wildlife holidays that provide an aha moment that lasts long after the vacation is over. I truly believe if you hike the Tour de Mont Blanc, you will have an aha moment of some kind. People hike it for all different reasons, but I feel like at the end of the TMB, you end up being a little bit better version of yourself. And because I believe in the power of connecting with nature as often as possible, I think in our daily lives, we're connected to our computers as we are right now. We're not often in nature as much as we should be. And so I want to make it as easy as possible for you. So there's no excuses. And on a personal level, I'm in the mountains almost every weekend. This photo was taken about 50 kilometers from Germany on Sunday. So you can see we have a lot of snow here. Unusual for this early in the year. So I'd like to ask you now, how often do you hike? I'm going to open up the poll, and okay, it's not going to work for some reason. So I'm going to go in the chat then instead. And in the chat box, can you tell me how often you hike? Oh, great. You can hear me. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, I appreciate that. And John and Chris, welcome. Glad you guys can make it. Thank you. So if you just want to let me know in the chat box how often you hike. Oh, John, I am impressed. 3 or 4 times a week. That is amazing. Wow. I only do once a week. Now I'm feeling like a slacker. Yeah, and Jamie's saying recently not so much, in the past every weekend. Absolutely. Sometimes life gets carried away. I'm seeing once or twice a month, almost every weekend, weekly, once a month. Love it. We've got regular hikers here. That's fantastic. 2 to 4 times a month. Woohoo! I love this. This is great that people are hiking so often. And then that's also a really good sign, because sometimes we'll get people that say they would love to do it, but they haven't actually hiked. And I mean, it's obviously there's still time to get in shape for it. But if you're hiking regularly, it's going to be much, much easier. Okay, so I'm going to go turn off the chat here again and go back into the full screen to make it easier to see. So just an overview of the Tour de Mont Blanc. It's 160 to 170 kilometers. That's what 99 miles. Depending how you do it, there's variations, there's shortcuts, there's ways you can make it longer. And then it's about 8,000 to 10,000 meters in elevation gain. So 6.2 miles of ascents and descents. And you get to hike through France, Italy, and Switzerland. Now, a note about the elevation. Somebody had mentioned in the comment form that it seems like it was fairly flat. I can tell you from experience, it's not flat. It's very much up and down. And the challenge of this for the elevation, you look at this and go, okay, that's not too bad, give or take 1,000 meters a day. But often it's spread out throughout the day. So you might maybe do 500 meters at the beginning of the day. That's great. Your legs are fresh. You're feeling good. You can totally do that. But then after hiking for 5-6 hours, you have to do another 400 meters. And that's normally not a lot for regular hikers like yourself. But when you've already been hiking for several days and for 5-6 hours, that's where the challenge comes in. And that 400 meters can seem like it's so hard, even though you're like, this is 400 meters, this should be easy. It's one of the most iconic long distance treks in the world. If you Google best hikes or best treks in the world, Tour de Mont Blanc will come up. And you're going to circle Mont Blanc, which is the highest mountain in the Alps, but it's actually not the highest mountain in Europe. That's actually in Russia, in the European part of Russia. So it's the second highest in Europe. It's also important to note, you can see from the diagram here, you're not actually you're going to reach the summit. That is mountaineering. You can see it's covered in glaciers, so that's totally different. This is a trek that doesn't require any special skills, just lots of stamina. And it usually takes 7 to 10 days, depending on whether you use public transportation. And we'll get into that in a few minutes, what that looks like. So practical logistics. This is one thing. This tour, logistically, it's a lot to plan. So it's usually done in a counterclockwise direction. That's the only way that we do our tours. It's also what we recommend for people doing it on their own. You can start it wherever you want, but the most popular starting places are the villages of St. Gervais or Les Houches. Those are near the Chamonix, it's a mountain town, and both of those are in France. Approximately 10,000 people hike the Tour de Mont Blanc a year, so it is a really popular hike. And the hiking season is mid-June to mid-September every year, so very short season. A lot of people might want to do it before or after, and that's not possible. And we'll get into that a little bit later on. Weather, somewhere between -2 to 22 degrees or 28 to 72 Fahrenheit, slightly cooler in June and September. So at nights, it definitely does cool down, warms up during the day, you can be wearing shorts. Rain, nobody likes hiking in rain. It rains on average during the hiking season about 15 days a month. I know that sounds like a lot, and you probably will get rained on at some point, to be honest, but it doesn't rain the whole day. Those 15 days a month, even if it rains for 30 minutes, it counts as that. Some days it may rain the whole day, but it usually doesn't. And cell phone coverage. It's available for most of the trek. Internet access is available at some of the huts and the accommodation, but their strength really depends. So I definitely recommend carrying a cell phone, but I wouldn't rely on the huts or the accommodation internet. It's good to have it either through your own carrier or buying a SIM card that works in Europe. So you have 3 options for hiking the Tour de Mont Blanc. You can plan it all yourself. This is by far the most time-consuming and frustrating. It was actually the reason that I started offering this tour, because this is how I did it with my husband, and it took us about 12 hours to book everything. But it definitely is the cheapest, and there's a website here that you can do it. Now, somebody was asking about online bookings. Yeah, there is no such thing as online bookings for the Tour de Mont Blanc for the huts. You have to send them an email, and some of them check their email maybe once a week, or you have to call. And you'll be doing that in 3 different languages, being French, Italian, and Swiss German. So it can be a little bit frustrating because it's hard to book your next accommodation until you know the first one's been booked. Since, as we know as hikers, 5-10 kilometers makes a very big difference for hiking when you're planning your route. So definitely is possible, but time consuming. You can also do a self-guided tour, so you get the knowledge of an experienced travel planner, but you also get your freedom. So in my opinion, this is the best of both worlds. I personally don't really like hiking in a group, but I like the freedom, but to be honest, I don't like doing all the planning. And you can participate in a group. This is definitely the easiest option. You don't have to worry about any route finding. It's also the most expensive and least flexible. So you're trying to hike as a group, which can be frustrating. People have different hiking speeds. So for accommodation, you have 3 choices. Camping, which is the cheapest option. And that's something, I'll be honest, I don't know very much about. I'm not much of a camper in Europe. I camp in Canada quite a bit, but not actually in Europe, but it is possible. Dormitory accommodation, which everybody's like, ugh, it sounds like hostels. Well, it is, but a hiker hostel is a little bit different. So this is still going to include your breakfast and your dinner, showers, usually when there is, unless there's a water shortage. They're simple, clean, but budget friendly. The difference between dormitory accommodation and a hostel is usually that they have a strict lights out policy, usually by about 10 o'clock. Everybody's been hiking all day. They're tired and everyone's getting up again at the same morning. So you're not going to have people coming in drunk 2 o'clock in the morning, being really noisy. Having said that, if you are a sensitive sleeper, there probably will be somebody snoring. So if you are choosing dormitory accommodation, it is good to bring earplugs. Another option is private double. So this is in small hotels and huts. So you're going to get the same benefits as in dormitory accommodation, but you're going to get more privacy and slightly more expensive, but still reasonably priced. Keep in mind, for quite a few nights on your private double accommodation, you're going to be sharing a bath for the simple reason that the huts, they have one big bathroom. So there's usually, sometimes there's men and women, sometimes it's mixed. It really depends on the hut. And so all the facilities are in one place. So let's go back to our poll here. I'm just going to put this in the chat. I'd love to know, if you can let me know in the comments, have you ever slept in a mountain hut in the Alps? Just enter that in the chat, yes or no. Usually a lot of people, when they're doing the Tour de Mont Blanc, they haven't slept in a mountain hut, especially if they're coming from North America, where we have a lot of people. Okay, so I'm seeing no, unfortunately not. No. Oh, yep, Kevin has, when he did the hot route, not in the Alps. Yes. So we've kind of got a mix, but we've got more people that haven't slept in a mountain hut than have. I personally think it's one of the coolest experiences. I do it probably 5-6 times a year, sometimes just for a night or two over the weekend. It's just got, the word in German is gemütlich. It just means like really comfortable and cozy atmosphere. It's something really, really cool. Even though, like I said, it is very simple, but there's just something about the camaraderie about it, which I think is amazing. Okay, we're going to go back into full screen here. Thank you. So this is what dormitory accommodation looks like on the Tour de Mont Blanc. So you can see here on the left, this is your typical restaurant. And whether you're staying in private, double, or dormitory, you're eating in something like this. The meals will all be served at the same time. Usually there's a vegetarian option and another option. That's it. But to be honest, a really, really picky eater, and the meals are incredible. So they're usually 3-course meals, sometimes 4 courses, usually 3. So you might start with a soup, then you'd have a big main course, and then you'd have some kind of dessert. And what you get really depends on the country. In France, you might get cheese for dessert. In Switzerland, you're probably going to get some kind of a cake or something like that. I will say, however, the dinners are huge. The breakfasts are really, really small. Europeans in general don't eat very big breakfasts. And so that's kind of a little bit strange if you're coming from North America. We're used to like a big hiker's breakfast, this big plate of food. In France especially, you might get a croissant, maybe some yogurt if you're really lucky. So it's just good to be aware of that, that the breakfasts are much smaller. So if you do like a big breakfast before you hike, it's worth it to bring some snacks. And it's just a cultural thing. You can see in the middle photo here, some of the huts are in absolutely gorgeous places, gorgeous scenery. And then on the right here is a picture of a dorm room. And so typical dorm room, they have anywhere between usually 6 to 40 beds. We don't use the places that have 40 beds unless somebody books in June, and that's all that's available, because I really don't like, personally, I don't like sleeping in rooms with 40 people, and I'm going to assume you don't either. So we do try, it's one of the benefits of booking early is that there's more availability and we're able to book a dormitory that has fewer beds in it. So an example what private double accommodation looks like, you can see on the left, it might be a double bed. Fairly often it's bunk beds. It's clean, simple, nothing fancy, but it is private. And then you can see some of the food here. on the right. The food here is really, really good. And like I said, it's fun to see the regional differences between the 3 countries. So the pros and cons of dormitory versus private double. This is a question a lot of people have. In a nutshell, the dormitory is cheaper, but the private double is more comfortable. And if you're really social, dormitory is more social. The private double gives you more privacy. So really just depends what you're looking for. There's no bad choice. For both, you're going to be eating together in the main room of the hut. So even if you're social, but you want a little bit of privacy, you don't have to worry that you're not going to meet people if you stay in the private double room, because you still will people because you're all eating together. So how to make it easier? I had some people that were asking about this either for themselves or for other people in their group. So a couple things you can do. One of the things is that you can take more public transportation. So throughout the hike, there's optional or required transfers available on certain days. So for example, on the 7-day tour, that's the easiest tour, and you take public transportation every day. It's not possible to walk the Tour de Mont Blanc in 7 days. You'd be hiking 15, 16 hours a day. And so what you do is you take transfers. It could be local buses. It could be ski lifts that run in summer, just to shorten it up through the less scenic parts. So on other hikes, the 9-day and the 10-day tour, you can also take public transportation, but a lot more of it's optional. So if you're tired, you can do that. And that's also a really good thing to do if you have your hiking party, to say, okay, well, we've got, 2 people, if they're tired, so they're going to take the bus and we'll meet them here, and the 2 of us will go together. Another reason why it's good to have a phone to communicate with your party if you do get separated, just say, hey, where are you? You can also hike it in July or August. So in June or September, guaranteed you're going to get snow. I can't tell you how much snow because it depends on the year. I will tell you that this year, I personally shortened the season a little bit for when we're offering till September, because this year, the last day that people can start it is September 10th. But for the 2017 season, we had it as the 15th, and there was a lot of snow, and people weren't happy with that. So if you want to make it easier, obviously hiking through snow is a lot more difficult than not hiking through snow. You definitely want to do it in July or August. Also use hiking poles. I recommend this for everybody, even if you're not trying to make it easier. I think it just takes so much of the pressure off the knees, especially when you're going downhill. You can also have your luggage transported. So how that works is it'll be waiting for you at your hut the next day. So then you just need a backpack, which is obviously much easier than carrying a big backpack. And you can choose a 7-day tour. Like I said, that's the easiest, and that one you're hiking 4 to 6 hours every day. Now, some of you I know would like to make it more challenging. Yay for you, I'm impressed. In this case, choose the 9 or the 10-day tour. The 9-day tour is the hardest, but it also has more transfers. I personally like the 10-day tour because then you're hiking a lot more of it. So to start the hike, everybody takes the tramway up to the start, to play the Mont Blanc tramway up to the start. Everybody takes that, and then there's one more transfer on the 10-day, but that's it, unless we have a hard time getting some hotels. There's a few optional transfers you can do. So it's a more pure way of doing it. I personally prefer the 10-day tour over the 9-day tour, but the 9-day, if you really want to challenge yourself, it definitely is harder. You can carry your own luggage and hike instead of taking the transfers when they're offered. And if you like hiking in snow, which some people do, then hike in June or September. Because there's likely to be a lot more snow. I can't tell you how much. It's really going to depend on the year. So poll time. If you can let me know in your comments again here, is what is your main motivation for wanting to hike the TMB? Just let me know in the comments. Would love to hear why you're considering this hike. Okay, it looks like nature, mountains. Yeah, the scenery is absolutely stunning because you get to see the glacier from all different sides. It's absolutely beautiful. Scenery and the challenge, yeah, absolutely. You'll definitely be feeling it's like a good kind of hurt. Oh, the wildflowers are gorgeous. Love the wildflowers. I was really surprised, to be honest, how many wildflowers they were. The challenge, absolutely. To be in the mountains, the scenery. On the bucket list, different than the White Mountains. I haven't hiked in the White Mountains, but I'm sure it's very different. I grew up in the Canadian Rockies, so I'm pretty picky about my mountains, and I thought this was like absolutely stunning. I will say if you're used to like something super, super wild, hiking the Alps is not as wild because it's just they have a lot more mixed land use. So you'll be hiking along cows in some sections as well. You will be hiking on roads, some sections, which maybe doesn't sound that appealing. It's just very different in North America compared to how it is in Europe. But I think it's absolutely stunning. So great. Thank you for letting me know. Okay. We'll continue on here. So the best time to hike the TMB. So if you're looking for fewer people, you definitely want to do it in June or September, but you will have a higher chance of snow. And the transfers take more coordinating. So this is true especially in Italy. So in Italy, so July and August, everything is fine for the transfers. Italy, we usually find out maybe 2 or 3 days before the season opens when the Italian buses are going to be operating. So what happens then is it's still usually possible. They're usually still running. The buses are running, but you have to call 48 hours in advance to book the bus, and then the bus will come pick you up. Some years that doesn't happen in Italy, in which case you have to take a taxi. And people get a little bit frustrated with this sometimes because it's like very last minute. They're like, well, yeah, but what's happening? I'm hiking next week. I kind of need to know, if the bus is running. And our answer is usually we don't know because the Italian bus company doesn't know. In Switzerland, we can tell you usually months in advance. Everything is really well planned out. France, we can tell you a couple months in advance. Italy is just a lot more last minute. So if that is going to drive you crazy, then I really recommend that you don't hike in June or September. Hike in July and August, everything is running. You won't have to worry about it. July and August is the high season, so there will be more people, of course. Much lower chance of snow, but there still could be snow, but much lower chance. And all transfers are running, so they're easier to coordinate. I don't want to scare you about the transfers. It's just in June and September. It's just you have to kind of be willing to go with it a little bit easier. And accommodations are really good about helping with that as well and helping you get through it. But if you're a planner and want to have everything planned out 100%, it will be a little bit more frustrating in June and September. So the worst time to hike the TMB. So outside of the season. So which is, I think I have June 23rd here, but I think we're actually starting at June 21st or after September 10th. I think I've gotten probably 30 emails for 2018 alone already, people that want to hike it earlier. It's not possible, at least through us, it's not. Reason being, first of all, way too much snow, so it's not safe. Second thing is a lot of the huts aren't open. So it's going to be, not only is it not safe, it's going to be impossible to coordinate. So even if you're deciding to book this on your own, please don't do that. We have those guidelines there for a reason. And, we want to keep you safe, whether you're booking through us or booking on your own, really want to keep you safe. So that's why the guidelines are there. Now, this might sound a little bit strange, August 27th to the 31st, which is prime hiking season, but that's when the Ultra TMB is. So it's an ultra marathon consisting of 5 races over 5 days. And that attracts, I think it's like 10,000 people. I'm not sure. There's a lot of people there racing. These are really competitive races. I just don't think it's a very good experience, which is why I recommend don't hiking there. Now, if you wanted to start, say, August 24th, for example, you're still going to have some of the racers, but by that point, they should be a little bit more spread out. But just heads up, that's just going to be a really busy time. So what gear do you need? Quite a few people ask this question as well. Excuse me. I will send you a link to a printable packing list either later today or tomorrow, which has everything you need. But a couple of things I wanted to talk about first. Gaiters. People ask if you need gaiters, which are on my packing list. If you're hiking in June and September, 100%, would not consider without them. If you're hiking in July or August, it's optional. But I only wore mine one day, but it was absolutely pouring rain for about 4 hours, and I just kept my pants a little bit drier, a little bit cleaner. So July and August, I would say they're optional. Backpack, 35 to 45 liters if you're carrying your own gear. Realistically, for most people, unless you're a really light packer, you're probably going to need about 45 45 liters. This gray thing here is a sleeping bag liner. So this is part of the thing with sleeping in the huts. There's the huts will provide pillows, they will provide blankets, but just like in hotels, how the bedspreads aren't washed all the time, the blankets aren't washed that often. So you have this little thing, which is just like a sleeping bag, but it's super thin, just like a sheet. And so you sleep in this, and then you put the blankets over it, and then you put this over top of your pillow. So it's great because it's maybe 8 inches long, hardly takes up any space. Other thing, which you don't have to bring, but this was my favorite thing I brought, was a massage ball or foot roller. It feels so good because it doesn't matter how good a shape you're in, your muscles are going to be sore after hiking 7, 9, or 10 days. It doesn't take up much room. I used it on my feet. I used it on my back where my backpack was digging in. Love that. Also recommend laundry soap. It doesn't take up much space, and then that way you don't have to bring as many clothes either. Also a micro towel. So towels are not included in the huts. Doesn't matter if you're staying in private double or if you're staying in dormitory. So you want to bring something obviously that's small and quick drying. Other thing I want to talk about, since a lot of you haven't stayed in huts, is hut shoes. So if your hiking boots are muddy, do not wear them into the hut. Even if they're not muddy, some huts won't. It kind of depends on the hut. Some huts will let you wear your hiking shoes into the restaurant if they're not muddy. If they're not muddy, forget it. It's a very fast way to get screamed at. But none of the huts will let you wear your hiking boots into the actual sleeping quarters. So if you could wear your socks, being Canadian, I'm used to wearing my socks around the house, that's fine. In Europe, it's a little bit strange. So people actually have slippers. They have hut shoes, which could be anything from flip-flops or slippers or, Tevas that you wear with socks. Totally up to you. But the point of hut shoes is they're shoes that you only wear outside. When I go, I usually wear flip-flops, which honestly I do wear outside, but I clean them off beforehand. No one's the wiser. It works. Cards are something else that you want to play. So you will usually have an hour, sometimes a couple of hours from the time that you're finished hiking. After dinner, you go to bed. It's just nice to have a game to play with. And I personally like cards just because they don't take up a lot of room. And you can have lots of different variations with them. Earplugs, if you're sleeping in dormitory, always a good idea. And a headlamp. You might not need this again is if you're sleeping in dormitory accommodation. If you don't want to bring a headlamp, there's free apps you can download for your phone, which serve as a flashlight. That would also be fine. And like I said, I will send you this packing list as well for the complete list. Just a few things I wanted to talk about here. So is it right for you? We've talked about all the logistics, but there's a lot of reasons you might want to do it. So some people, they want to lose weight. They want to be on a health kick. It wasn't my primary reason for doing the Tour de Mont Blanc, although as a woman, I'm always happy to lose weight. I lost 7 pounds. My legs were really toned. So it's one of the benefits that you're going to get from it. You're also going to feel happier. So studies have shown that hiking, it's just going to make you feel happier. Whether you're depressed or already happy, you're just going to feel better. And there's the wildflowers there. Also, somebody was saying they love wildflowers. It's also good if you want to find out the answer to something that's been bugging you. It really increases your creative problem solving. I personally find I do all my best thinking when I'm hiking, even if I'm not actually trying to solve a problem. If you want to connect with a loved one, so hiking the TMB with a partner or friend, great way to bond with somebody, rekindle a spark. You're going to have that memory for years. You're going to have uninterrupted hours every day for multiple days on end, and having that mutual supporting each other mutually is a great feeling, and it's just going to bring you closer with whoever that you're hiking with. And if you want to feel calm and relaxed and less stressed, there's something about being in nature for days days away. It just is amazing for your mind, your state of mind. Most of you have done long distance hikes before, so I think you know what I'm talking about. And this is something a lot of you said you want to challenge yourself physically and emotionally. And I find, I'm sure if you found this also, it brings strength to so many areas, other areas of your life for years after. I remember on some parts of the TMB, we were really silly when we did it. We didn't hit the whole thing in 8 days, no transfers, which I do not recommend. One day we had a 13.5-hour day of hiking, which was awful in the pouring rain. But yeah, you get to a point like, I can't do it. And you do it. And then, couple of years later, I was facing another challenge in my life, had nothing to do with hiking. And I'm like, oh, I can't do it. I'm like, no, but I can, because I hiked for 13 and a half hours straight. So yeah, I can do it. It's one of the great things about hiking. Also, if you want to be in nature, but you don't want to be in it 24/7. So you want to know that if it's pouring rain, you have a roof over your head. You can have a shower. You're not having to cook beans and weenies over the campfire. Somebody else is doing it for you. It's one of the things I love about TMB is it really offers a much higher level of comfort that a lot of other hikes don't. And save major money. Hiking is a relatively inexpensive holiday, especially in Europe. Yeah, you're going to save a lot of money. A few more tips on how you can plan your perfect TMB tour. So do believe that you can do this. I think there's a lot of people that, they want to, but they're not sure if they can do it. That's the great thing. If you kind of say, yes, it's December, you've got time to train for this. Most of you are training regularly anyways. I really think that belief is really important. You want to be hiking regularly, which most of you are already doing. And if you are going to carry your own pack, plan on carrying a pack that's going to be similar in doing your training, because as you know, it's much harder to hike with a big day pack or with a big backpack than it is a day pack. Arrive 1 to 2 days early. So I have some people that want to arrive 8 o'clock at night and start hiking the next morning. Don't do it. You're going to be jet lagged. You're going to be exhausted. You do not want to start this hike tour. Give yourself a day or two to kind of, catch up on some sleep. And make sure that you're fresh when you start hiking. Hike at your own pace. You can chat with your group and how you're going to manage that, because if you're hiking with even one other person, let alone more people are probably going to be hiking at different paces. And so you need to kind of have a plan that works for you. What my husband and I did, sometimes I was faster, sometimes he was faster. So we would hike together if we were hiking the same pace, but then we would hike separately, sometimes 15, 20 minutes apart, depending who was faster. And we were okay with that. Do bring a cell phone. When you book with us, we do have a phone number you can call, 24/7 emergency phone number. You may need to call a taxi if somebody sprains an ankle, something like that, or you get separated from your friend. Just important to have a cell phone. It won't work in all places, but it will work in the majority of places. Don't overpack, especially true if you're carrying your stuff. And don't overestimate your abilities. You want to believe that you can do it, but you also want to be realistic. Another common mistake is underestimating the hiking times. So if you've checked out my site, we've got the hiking times. Those don't include breaks. And so say if it says 6 hours, by the time you take lunch and a few other breaks, it's probably closer to 7, even 7.5. I was really surprised because usually I'm a fairly fast hiker, but those don't include breaks. And if you're hiking multiple days in a row, you probably will be taking a few more breaks. Expect regular, stable internet access. Some people love to disconnect, which is great. Other people need to be online for work or in touch with their kids. Just keep in mind, again, if that's important to you, make sure that you have bring your own card or your carrier rather than relying on Wi-Fi from the accommodation. So why I recommend self-guided tours. Like I said, it was out of the experience of doing the tour myself, which was a nightmare. And after that, I've only done self-guided tours, and I do that personally for all my own treks as well. And so because we do the time-consuming planning for you, you get to show up for the fun stuff, which is going to be the hiking. So like I mentioned before, for this tour, there's a website you can check. Basically, you have to contact the one, wait for them to call you back. Although if you're calling from North America, they probably won't call you back. So then you have to keep calling them, hope you get somebody, hope that they speak English, or that they answer their email. And then once they've confirmed, then you do the next one. So you can see how long that's going to take. It took us about 12 hours to do it, because after we had confirmations from the first two, then we had one 4 or 5 days later. It said, oh, sorry, we're actually full. So it changed all of our accommodations. We had to start again. Then we redid that. And then it was like 5 days after that. And then the next hut said, oh, sorry, we're actually full. And so we had to redo it again. So it is possible. It's just to do it by yourself just takes a lot of time. You get our expertise. We know the huts that give rave reviews, and we book you in those ones. Like I said, we're really going to try very hard not to book you in a hut that has 40 other people. One of the huts, and I will not mention names because that's not fair for the hut owners and for our clients, you actually sleep in a barn. that's not a really nice experience. So we try to put you in the nice huts. And like I said, the sooner you book, the better chance we have of getting the nice ones for you. We also provide you the option of having your luggage transferred. I would say probably about 60 to 70% of our clients choose this. Not everybody does. Totally up to you. And you get the flexibility of starting your day when you want. You can take breaks when you feel like it. You can hike as slow or as quickly as feels right for you. You don't have to wait for anybody or feel that you're slowing down the group. And they're much more affordable than group tours. So this is what our clients say. One client said, I wasn't sure about hiking the TMB. It sounded like a lot of work, but my wife really wanted to do it and promised I could just show up, so I agreed. It was one of the best holidays we'd ever taken together. While hiking in the stunning Alps, we really reconnected, enjoyed chatting with other hikers we met along the way. Monkeys and Mountains Adventure Travel made everything very easy for us and was very patient with all our questions. I can't imagine doing it any other way. So we'd love to hear feedback like that. So I also put together this little chart for you to show you the benefits you get from self-guided tours versus a guided tour versus tours that you plan yourself. So I don't want to go into that too much. If you have any questions about that, I'm happy to talk to you about that a little bit further. This was a client that we had this past summer, the best service I ever had. Planning a hiking trip but not sure where to start? Be sure to check out Monkeys and Mountains. They got a bunch of hiking trips that sure excite you for your next trip at a reasonable price. I did a self-guided 7-day tour to Mont Blanc. Everything was made easy through me. All I did was the booking, give a few details about my stay before the trip. Everything was perfectly organized by them. Everything was well informative, not just for your hiking route, but directions to your accommodations and water points. They also maintained communication with you before your trip began, even though it was 3 months away. I would recommend others to use the service of Monkeys and Mountains. It was a well-organized trip, and I wouldn't hesitate to use their services. They offer again. We love hearing that kind of stuff. So, trying to choose your tour. On the left here, we have the easiest tours, which is the 7 days with luggage transfer. And then we have 10 days, which is the middle tour, but still more difficult. And then 9 days is the most difficult. And we have the prices here, the early bird prices that we have in effect until December 31st. And you can see, you'll also see a similar chart on this. If you click on the booking now, even if you're not ready to book, we have a chart that shows this really nicely. And I'll also send you that link afterwards. So in addition for booking, you're going to get the following bonuses: unlimited email support. Some people really take advantage of this. And I've had some clients that I think we've probably had 70, 80 emails back and forth. People just had a lot of questions. That's okay. I'm more than happy to help. Other people, it might be 2 or 3. They're just like, nope, we're good to go. You know, you don't have questions? That's totally fine too. This is your trip. So however I can support it. You're going to get access to our TMB resource kit. This has all kinds of different things like, tips for hiking in a group, how not to get yelled at in a mountain hut. Okay, that one I've given away in terms of don't wear your hiking boots in the sleeping quarters, things like this. You're also going to get an email series that has even more tips. You're going to get honest advice from somebody who has done it. So I've done all the tours that I sell, and I don't think the Tour de Mont Blanc is for everybody. If you were quite overweight and hadn't started hiking yet, I would say, you know what, you probably shouldn't do that. This is probably not your hike this year. So if you really want some honest advice, I'm happy to give it to you. I'm not trying to sell you a tour. I really want you to have the best tour for you. And if that's not the Tour de Mont Blanc, that's totally okay. I don't want to talk you into something that you're going to get there and go, oh, she lied to me, or this just wasn't what I expected. You work really hard for your money. Time is really precious. I truly want you to have an amazing holiday. Any more emergency support on your trip if required. We have a 24-hour 7 number that you can call. So this past summer, just to give you some examples of people that called it, we had somebody that sprained an ankle and needed some modifications. So we were able to do that. We had somebody else who found it was too difficult. So we arranged a private transfer for them. So this is the kind of stuff that we're able to help with if something comes up. I would say for 95% of our clients probably don't have to call that number, but it's nice to know it's there if you do want to. And so just another testimonial here. Working with Monkeys and Mountains Adventure Travel was a great experience. Laurel was quick to respond to emails and went above and beyond to work with us as we were hesitant planning such an expensive trip through email, online, etc. She made sure we were comfortable with the planning every step of the way. All the accommodations were wonderful and easy to work with. It's easy to see that Laura loves what she does. I really do. I feel very lucky. So next steps, check your email. I will try to send this out today, probably will be tomorrow because it's after 8 p.m. my time. And so just be on the lookout for an email from me. You're going to get a TMB printable gear list, a recording of the session. I know some of you want to do this with somebody else, and maybe that person wasn't able to make it, so this may help inform them to see whether it's a good fit for them or not. I'll also send you a link to my own experience of hiking the TMB. I know some of you want to book your own accommodation. No problem. I will provide the information for how you can do that. And booking instructions if you're ready to say yes to hiking the TMB. I know some of you have already booked, or yes, you want to book. You're just trying to figure out some details. And just a reminder, early bird pricing is valid until December 31st. And if you are in a group, again, the earlier you book, the bigger chance we're going to be able to get your group together in nice accommodations. So here's what we've covered. Just a reminder, we've gone through a lot. I love this quote from George Mallory, going to the mountains is going home. For me, that's really how I feel, and hopefully that's how you feel as well. So I'd like to thank you so much for attending. I truly hope 2018 is the year that you make your hiking dreams come true. And as always, if you have any questions, I'm going to take some questions now, but if you have any questions that you don't want to share here or you've got to run, please feel free to email me. I know some of you have already been in touch. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. So thank you, and I'm going to turn it back to the chat. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Any questions that you have. What do you do about lunches? Excellent question. So for lunches, you can do a couple of things. So you can either buy a bag lunch, order a bag lunch from the hut that you're staying at the night before. You just let them know, they'll give you a bag lunch. But yeah, you have to order it the night before. Some places, some days that you can eat at a hut along the way if you like. And on a couple of days, there's stops in villages, and so you can bring your own food if you like, or eat in the village. That's up to you. So depending whether or not you would need to. Okay, I'm just gonna go up here. Water purifier needed? No, I would say no. The reason I say no is because there's water stops most days, not all days, but all the huts will have water. And so if you brought two 2 liters with you, so 4 liters of 4 liters. Sorry, I don't know what that is in Imperial, but 4 liters. So 2 big water bottles, you would be fine most days. And like I said, there's some ways that you can fill them up on the way. So no, I wouldn't worry about a water purifier. Charging station, great question. I'm assuming you mean for phones and things. So if you're staying in dormitory, there might be 2 or 3 plugs for the entire thing. So I would really recommend bringing your own, like your what do you call those things? Something that has like multiple outlets so that you can charge your devices and other devices as well, because you might have a phone, maybe you have a camera, maybe you have a Kindle, something like that. Then we'll have a much better chance of getting it charged. So really good question, John, especially if you're staying in dormitory. And it's also not a bad idea to bring one if you've got like 3 different devices, and whoever you're staying with also has a couple different devices. If you're staying in private double, it also is a good idea to bring one. Towel drying, basically towel drying is, if you arrive early enough, then you can put it outside on a picnic bench. If you don't, then you hang it over your bunk bed. And that's why the quick dry towels are really important, because there aren't dryers or anything like that. So a regular towel, not only would it take up a lot of room, but it's going to be wet all the time, which would not be that good. Do you have options to store luggage that we'll be using later on in my vacation while I'm hiking? Yes, there is a place in Chamonix and another place in Les Houches that we do recommend for our clients. And that is much cheaper than the luggage option, than the luggage transfer option. Honestly, I recommend that option unless you really need your luggage, because I'm cheap. I don't like paying extra money for luggage. I understand some people need it, and that's different, but there is another option available. So great question. Thank you. Is starting around July 10th a good time for wildflowers? Yeah, the great thing about it is that you're going to see different wildflowers than you will beginning of July, than you will beginning of August. But the entire summer is a great time. June probably is not so good because there's still quite a bit of snow, but any time from, I would say, July 3rd, July 1st, July 3rd on would be great. And again, probably later in September isn't as good as well, but July and August would be great for wildflowers. How is the snow field condition the first half of July? Usually it's fine. Usually you can do all the routes. There's snow is not a problem. You might get it. I did it in first week in August, and there was one section we had ankle deep snow for maybe 10, 15 minutes. That was about it. So July, you probably will run into very little, if any, snow. But again, things can change so quickly. Can you talk about the condition of the trail? Any rock scrambling? For the most part, it's like straight hiking. There's one section that there is a little bit of scrambling on. It's a tougher section. It has one of the best views of Tour de Mont Blanc in Switzerland. But if you didn't want to do that, then there also is an easier option. And there's also another option. There's one other section that has a little bit of scrambling, but for the most part, it's straight hiking. I'm planning on starting as early as possible, June 23rd. Do I need any special equipment for the snow? Gaiters. Gaiters would be really, really important because in June 23rd, you'll definitely have snow. If you have gaiters, you'll be okay. The other thing I'd recommend is just maybe a little bit of like extra long underwear. Do you wear light hikers or leather boots? So the ones that I personally recommend, first I recommend anything that comes over your ankle. I think it's really important. Much better chance of not spraining an ankle either. Mine are mid-weight. So I don't have, super heavy duty leather boots, but they're not light hikers either, somewhere in the middle. So I think the big thing that you really need to watch for is ankle support. Make sure they're covering your ankles. They're sturdy. They don't have to be rock solid, but make sure they're covering your ankles. I plan to camp through the TMB. Can I still eat and shower in the huts? You can definitely eat in the huts, no problem. For showering, it's going to depend. They will charge you, even if you're staying there. Some of the huts will charge you. I think most places would probably let you shower as well, but it's really going to depend on the huts. Eating won't be a problem. They'll let you eat. The only time that they might not is if they were. I'm just trying to think here. Yeah, is if they were full, and in July and August they are full fairly often. So they might tell you to come a little bit earlier, a little bit later, but for the most part, that should be fine. Weight limits on luggage transfer. Great question. It is 15 or 25 kilos. Let me get back to you on that. That's a really good question. It's either 15 or 25 kilos. I'm sorry, off the top of my head, I can't remember that. So yeah, they don't strictly enforce it, but you really don't want to go over it too much. I will come back to you on that, John. I'll send you an email about that. Do you bring a light sleeping bag in addition to the sheet? Nope, you don't need to. The reason for that is because they have blankets, and the blankets are really, really warm. So if it's a really cold night, then you just put on 2 blankets in addition over the sleeping bag liner, and you're fine. I'm always really, really cold, and I've never been cold in the huts because of the blankets. Is there any tricky creek crossing like in the Sierras? I haven't actually hiked in the Sierras, unfortunately. But no, there's no tricky creek crossing. So in terms of a technical hike, it's not that technical. It's challenging in other ways, but it's not technical, so you won't have to worry about crossing any creeks. How many miles a day is in the 10-day plan? And could I make it 11 days to do less mileage if I needed to? So we only offer 7, 9, or 10 days. And with the 10-day, you are hiking. Let me just bring this up here so that everybody can see this. I'm just going to share my screen. I want to make sure I'm giving you most accurate information here. So on the 10-day tour, you're going to be hiking for 5 to 5.5 hours. Again, that doesn't include breaks. Anywhere from 1,312 feet to there's an extra 4 in there, to 3,444 feet. I believe it's about 10 to 15 kilometers a day that you're doing on that one. in terms of the mileage. Okay, I'm going to stop my screen share there. And just go down and see if there's any other questions here. Okay, are there any other questions? So it looks like that's about it for the questions. But again, if you have any other questions, feel free to email me. I'm happy to help. And like I said, I will send you the stuff that I promised to send you. I know it's a lot to digest, and I really appreciate your questions. So there were some great questions, and I'd like to thank you so much for your time. I know how busy everybody is, especially this time of year. So I really appreciate taking this time, and I hope you decide to do the tour de Mont Blanc. So thank you so much. And again, if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, good night.